Hey, welcome back. This is Derek with That's What He Said.
I'm Mike.
We are on episode 9. So we made 2 promises in our last episode. Promise 1 was that we would get back to doing these weekly.
We did not keep that promise.
Failed.
At all.
Failed. Bad. I think it's been over a month. So, shame on us there. But second promise was that the next episode would have a special guest, which we delivered on that. This is Miss Christina. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, guys. I'm excited to be here.
How does it feel to be the first official guest on That's What He Said?
Probably it was going to happen.
Yeah. No, we're excited. I do give you credit and kudos because you were one of our first, I think, real good supporters. I mean, you gave us some feedback right out of the gate, which is much appreciated. So.
You didn't do it on YouTube.
Derek didn't provide your information, so you can blame that on
I'm
Derek.
pretty sure every episode I specifically tell people to leave comments on the YouTube channel so we can both see them. But yeah.
Yep, we're 1 minute in. This is gonna go great.
This is doing great, Derek. Let's go.
Needless to say,
We do appreciate the comments.
thank you.
Derek did.
Yeah.
Let me see.
No,
Give advice.
we're trying. So we are makeshift. So we've got the setup here. We're still trying to figure out the right way to do this. So we're at opposite ends of the table. The two of them are going to try not to fight each other because they're down there on one screen. I'm down at the other end trying to help moderate this. We'll see how it
I
goes.
think you guys are doing a great job. I'll definitely give you kudos. You've stepped out of your comfort zone. You've given a different perspective, and that's important. It's helped me in different ways. It kind of gives me an insight on how a guy is thinking, which has been important, and I appreciate that. So I think here sitting and talking about things and giving my perspective will give you guys a different understanding as to where things are coming from as a woman's point of view.
Yeah. No, and it's I think it'll be good. You were gracious enough to provide us with some things that you kind of want to talk about, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the goal of what we tried to do. I mean, Mike and I just spend a lot of time talking about life, and ultimately it goes into relationships and how that affects things. And so, yeah, hearing your perspective and asking questions from our viewpoint, hopefully this is something, the start of something bigger and beautiful as we get more hosts on or more guests on. So thank you again for joining. So we will, before we get into it, Christina, why don't you just kind of give a backstory on you and personally a little bit about yourself and kind of your situation, and we'll go from there.
So, kind of grew up in a small town. Continue to live in that same small town. I'm happy here. I wouldn't change anything about that about myself. I am divorced. I am 34 years old, which is still kind of young. I mean, it depends on who asks and what day it is. With that being said, I am happy with who I am and where I am at in life. I did not see this being my journey, but at the same token, it's okay with the situation I'm in. I would say in the long run, I want more out of life, and I'm going to work towards that goal ultimately. So I got married at a young age. I got married at 22. I actually met my ex-husband when I was in high school, and we dated then. We went to college. He was a couple years older than me. I went to college. We kind of separated, came back home, and got to see him again. We just knew it was meant to be, and we got together. And at 22 years old, I got married. So it was young. It was a point in my life that was very important. It felt right. I was happy. It was where I wanted to go. It was who I wanted to be with, and it was what I wanted to do life. Fast forward, here I am 10 years later, plus. I have a 3-year-old daughter. We live in our home alone together, and we're happy together, and we function on a daily basis. But there's a lot of information that happened between those 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. So I would say getting married young was different. It was the right thing to do at the time. We bought a house, we filled it with furniture, we traveled, we went places, we saw things, we accomplished goals. What a struggle was for us was to start a family. Not everyone has that same struggle. It was for us. And he was the right person to go through that struggle with at the time. I mean, there was no one else that cared for me or respected me the same way he did. So I'm very appreciative of that. And during all of the struggles, we kind of decided who we were and where we were going to go. And we ultimately became parents. We did it differently. We adopted our daughter, which is not the typical way that people start a family. But it's becoming more prevalent. She's 3 years old now. And she is my world. She is funny. She is smart. She is thriving. She does better some days than I'm expecting. So I know that my ex-husband and I are doing things right. And I'm thankful for that. That's kind of where we are today. I don't know what other questions you have for me on that. I mean,
No, that was good. That was a good little layup.
Yeah, no,
how did
appreciate.
we get there?
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of work. I mean, we had the same like-minded goals. We woke up every day, we went to work, we put in our time, we put in our effort, and we became who we are because of that.
Mhm.
And so I'm very thankful that he was the person that was there for me to do that. I mean, my ex-husband, as some people would think, he's important to me. He's family. He's a different kind of love. Some people have the traditional mom and dad and 2 or 3 kids kind of love. And the love that I have for my ex-husband is, here's mom, here's dad, here's our kid. We have respect. We love each other differently, but we love our daughter ultimately.
Yeah. No, well, so thanks for sharing. And it's just hearing you, talk, obviously there's a level of respect that you have for him and vice versa. And I think that's something that we've been really big about talking about with our past situations. Cause I think we have share that same level of respect with our exes, and especially with kids involved. That's extremely important. And so we were talking a little bit before we started the podcast, and Mike and I have talked about our experiences, and, every marriage has its own difficulties and challenges. Getting to the point where obviously you guys aren't together anymore, stuff happens. You either use those turning points to come together, or it drives you apart. In some of the conversations, it sounds like you guys with what you're trying to do with family and kids was maybe the beginning of that. My cat's in the background joining in with you there. But to whatever level of comfort that you're willing to share, maybe talk a little bit about that on turning points, as far as, obviously you guys aren't together now. So what kind of happened, I guess?
We had been married for a very long time, close to 8 years. And so we were able to do what we wanted, when we wanted, where we wanted. And I mean, it was maybe planning a vacation, or it was saving money, or it was talking about doing landscape, whatever it might be. It was maybe minuscule to others, but to us it was important. We decided with the adoption that, we needed to save money to be able to do it and start the process of that. You kind of have to change your lifestyle in general. You don't get to go out to eat as much. You don't get to spend time with your friends as much. You are sitting at home saving your pennies so that you can become parents. You're taking foster care classes. You are writing blogs about yourself, about who you are and the experiences you've had with your spouse and why you think you would be a good home for a child. So it's not traditional. You don't just get to wake up one day and be like, dude, we pregnant. Like, it's not like that. It's not like that, Mike.
That's exactly how it was. Dude, we pregnant.
We're pregnant. Yeah, no, it's not like that. And so it's with that comes stresses. Before you get there, you are trying to get pregnant yourself, and you're taking medication, and you're gaining weight, or you're sitting at home like counting the days when you're ovulating. And that is a lot of stress on a marriage. It is not healthy. It wears you down. And if you don't have anyone to talk to about that, it really starts to get to you. So as a woman, I find someone to talk to. I had a circle of friends. I had other moms that were going through a similar situation. So I had people to reach out to and talk with. My ex-husband, guys are a little different. You guys don't talk about your feelings.
We don't. That's the reason why we started this. We don't. We hold everything in and we don't tell anybody. It's just what we do.
Exactly. So it kind of makes it more difficult. With that being said, fast forward a couple of years, we were able to actually make progress and decided to do something different. And, when our daughter came into our lives, it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We went through some struggles at the beginning when she was born and trying to get her out of the hospital and giving her what she needed. Spent time with therapists, spent time with physical therapists. So that takes the time away from your marriage. That takes time away from individual time, getting to do what I like to do on my own and that I'm accustomed to doing on my own. And it starts to hurt you after a while. And if you don't talk about it with your spouse, it starts to build up. So ultimately, that's kind of what hurt us, was just not communicating what we were needing at a point in time in life when our daughter was in our life and we were more focused on everything else but maybe ourselves and our marriage.
I have a question. So you would talk to other people about the problems and issues you were having. He didn't talk to anybody. What do you think, the reason why you wouldn't talk to each other about it? Since you wanted to talk about it, he
Pride.
needed to talk about it.
Definitely pride.
Pride? Okay.
I mean, that's probably a pride thing. Both of us having similar backgrounds, but both of us being only children, you sometimes internalize things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And you think you can solve the problem yourself. And so if you keep working on yourself, or you keep thinking about it and coming up with solutions, or I'm going to do this today on Tuesday, and he's going to respond to it like this, not necessarily the truth.
Right.
And it was both our faults. I mean, we had a great marriage. I'm happy. I still, like, my ex-husband is important to me. He's still a very vital person in my life. He's still family. I love him differently than I'm supposed to, but I have respect for him. I trust him, and that's going to continue to be the way it is.
Good. Let's do that. It's healthy.
Yeah. So we'll probably come back and ask you some specific questions on, not only the divorce, but kind of how you're living life post that. But to kind of, I guess, switch gears a little bit, I know you had some things that you wanted to bring up.
I have questions.
And so
I have good questions for you guys.
We'll transition there and let you.
I'm trying to give me a guy's perspective on certain things. So I've emailed Derek. He's been the one I've been in communication with. Anyone that's requested him recently, it's because of me. Sorry, Derek.
No.
You don't have that many people that like you. It's because of me.
Listen, I'll take whatever sympathy requests I can get. So thank you.
He does.
I do.
So when you guys started this, seriously, let me backtrack a minute.
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing a great job. I love what you're saying. I think you have a audience that is needed to hear this for a while. And with that being said, I have enjoyed watching your podcast. I've asked you questions, and I'm going to continue to. I like being engaged in that. It's something that's helped me. And that's why I've shared it with other people. I think it needs to be out there. So
I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
It's so funny because when we started this, we literally thought we were doing this for guys. But honestly, I think we've done this more for women. I feel like more women have reached out or had interest in this.
And not like Mike and I have shared this. Like I think about myself 10, 15 years ago, and the whole idea of like expressing myself and not like, and just burying stuff. Like, I mean, that was me. And I don't want to sit there and wave like that flag that like I'm got it all figured out. And I don't think you would either, but like, I would say like on the bell curve of like guys that at least are knowledgeable about like what they're going through and like their feelings and their thoughts, like we're probably on the other side of the bell curve. Cause we have a lot of conversations. I mean, we're talking about this stuff in front of like the internet world.
Well, we realize how unhealthy it is.
Oh, 100.
We
Yeah.
have to talk.
And I don't want to live the rest of my life like I used to live in the past ever again.
would
So
agree with
it's
that.
important to talk about this stuff.
I would say a lot of my relationships, I am an only child, so I have learned to do things on my own, be in survival mode on my own. I have healthy relationships with other guys that have been in my life for 20 plus years. Like, they are good friends of mine. They are a male, but there is a platonic friendship there. Like, there is a respect there. I can talk about my feelings on certain subjects with them. And I'm very thankful for that. More of that's become available to me in the last couple of years after going through the divorce. But I think that's important to kind of break through those boundaries too.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Definitely.
As an adult. Yeah. Talk about it.
So where do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. Well, let me get there.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't remember?
No, I don't remember these. I sent them to Derek. I asked, what boundaries or expectations do you have for your ex? And for example, on that, I'll give my story. There are moments in time where I had maybe reached out to my ex and sent him questions or sent him pictures of our daughter or walked down memory lane a little bit that maybe I shouldn't be doing.
Well, I honestly think as long as everything is about the kids or kid, I feel like that's always okay. Whether it's, look at this, like, do you remember when they were one or something like that? If you're reminiscing about the time with the children, I feel like it's okay. I mean, you guys are the parents of the children. You have that bond, whether you're together or not. Like, that's important. It's a bond that needs to stay strong. So reminiscing about the kids, I feel like, is never a bad thing ever. I think anything past that is where the boundaries need to start, like, forming, whether it's.
So do you say that to them? Like,
I
don't want to go there, or do you just not respond to it?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends on what you're feeling at the time. Like, I think you need to set the boundaries. So if they overstep them, you need to let them know.
Well, and talk about, I mean, you've been divorced for a while now. So talk about post-divorce when it's fresh till now, and like how you have you always been the same way with like your boundaries, or do you feel like you have refined it, over time?
No, I refined it for sure. When we first were divorced, it was different. Like, I was still lost and still not sure things.
I mean, I remember going through my wedding album at one point in time and packing up the house and then putting things in boxes. My wedding album is there, and I'm like, let's look at it. Yeah. I'm keeping it more for my daughter than anything else.
And that's the thing. Like, here's the thing: you can't act like the life was never there. Like, there was a life there. Yeah. And even reminiscing on memories isn't a bad thing. I think it's you have to view everything as is. Like, there's not a blanket statement for this. I feel like it needs to be by case scenario. And I feel like once you feel like the boundaries crossed, you have to say something, and you have to let them know, like, hey, like, I don't think we need to do like this. But like, even things like, I just don't feel, I mean, you guys have had a relationship, you have children together. You don't need to be just like, we're parents only. We can't act like we're ever together. But like, reminiscing like on specific thing, I can't even give you an exact thing, but like, I feel like you will know if it's overstepping boundaries. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
No, we talked a little bit about this before we did this episode, and I think sharing a picture, like I'll tell you, like my ex, she'll send pictures from like Facebook of when like 7 years ago, when they're little, and like it pops up and it's just, it's, hey, this came across, like, look how little they are. And like, that's cool. Like, cool. But I think where like a boundary gets crossed is like, hey, here's that picture from this trip we took. Do you remember how fun that was? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, now you're walking down memory lane. You have a new life. I have a new life. Like, that stuff can't be done. And I think where some people get in trouble is if you don't, everybody's going to move on at some point. And so if you don't set that boundary early, like, it can be wishy-washy. Like, I'm going to allow certain stuff to fly when I'm maybe not in a relationship with like a new person versus, okay, now I'm with a new person, so now my boundaries are going to switch. Like, no, like, I think just for yourself and your self-comfort, like, you have to establish that early on. Like, I'm okay with you sharing pictures, or if it's your night with the kids and they do something cool and you snap a picture, you just want to let me know, like, that's fine. But like Mike said, like once there's like, and I think you'll be able to tell, like once there's more emotion tied to it about like a longing for things how they used to be or whatever, then that's where it's like, no, like we can't do that. Because like, I mean, you love your kid, you love your kids. Like I only have half the time. So if they're doing something cool or, you know, memorable, like, yeah, snap a picture and share it with me. Like I want to see it, you know?
I agree with that.
So
I think sometimes people forget that. I know some other divorced folks that sometimes have tried to walk down memory lane where it gets too personal, where you're talking to your ex almost every day. That's not healthy.
Yeah, that's not.
And I say that with empathy, meaning change your habits, make it more about the situation that you're in now.
It's healthy to do that. I don't think it's bad to set boundaries. It's healthy. I think it would be good for both of you.
I agree wholeheartedly.
but like even now, and I don't know, like Mike with you, like, I mean, I exchange text messages daily with my ex-wife, if not multiple times a day, but it is,
He's got a lot of kids.
I have a lot of kids. I mean, so many kids. But they're all school age and they got so much stuff going on. And like, like I've always,
there's nothing wrong.
I've always just been like, if anybody that I'm talking to or seeing, like, I mean, I'll show you, like, it is logistics of
How the day.
like, hey, like, do you have the tennis rackets or like, are you picking them up? Are you going to this event or am I going? Like, it's all like logistic. There's no emotion. It's all logistics.
And that's a red. We'll talk about this on another episode. Red flags, because we've discovered something about red flags. Yeah. If somebody has an issue with your constant communication with your ex about the children and everything that's going on, that's an issue between you two, not you and your ex. Like, to me, that's very perfectly normal. You guys have a lot of things going on with the kids. You need to be in communication. You are a team when it comes to the kids, whether the ex person likes it or not.
Yeah.
So if they have an issue with that, then there's an issue in that relationship already, in my opinion.
Well, and okay, so woman's point of view, like I've always felt like, because you hear so many war stories about like how bad like divorced couples are and all that stuff. Like I always felt like a woman would find that as an attractive quality in a man that comes from a divorce with kids, that they have a healthy relationship, that it's not crossing like the boundaries that we just talked about.
I would agree with that, Derek.
That it's like,
I think a secure woman who understands a man that she is with, his role in the relationship with his ex and his children, that should be an attractive quality. You should have confidence in knowing that your man is not talking to his ex because he is trying to get with her. He is simply talking to his ex because he has children to raise. He has goals for himself. This is what I am doing. This is where so-and-so is at this point in time. Are you going to be there? My biggest fear is for my daughter to have a sporting event or a musical event or whatever it may be. Swimming, diving. I don't know what she wants to be when she grows up. She's 3 going on 300. But with that being said, I do not want her to have to look for 2 places, for her mom and for her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom needs to be here and her dad needs to be there. And then whoever else is in the picture needs to be sitting in that same vicinity.
okay.
There needs to be comfort in that. You have to take understanding that just because your person that you were dating is still talking to their ex, it's not because there's feelings there. It's because they want the best for their responsibilities. You have lives to take care of. Your kids,
Yep.
they need you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're aligned on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't need the validation, but like it just feels good hearing you say that, because like I'm like, that's not unreasonable.
It goes the same way with me. Like, I mean, there are times like when something might pop up from my daughter being younger, and I'll send it to my ex-husband. Or she's written her name. She's 3 years old and she's writing her name. It's hilarious. And so I sent him a picture of it, and I'm like,
all fine.
bribe her and
All
she
fine.
will write her name. I'm like, give her a sucker, give her a fruit roll up. She will write her name for you. Like, here's a trick. Do it. It's so fun. It's so cute. Push her. Like, we are on the same path. We are parenting together. And it's because she's not with me. I can't ask her to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the other person that I have entrusted to help raise this little human.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
All right. Other questions?
Can I just say while she's looking it up, I don't know if I'm rubbing off on you, but I noticed you were talking with your hands this episode, and I love it, and I think it's great.
All right, let's just keep it on the topic of your ex while we're there. What are some healthy examples of interactions or conditions that you have with your ex and the kids? Derek, you and I talked about birthday parties and kind of how that's important. You told me, I think it was a birthday party, you went for a bonfire for Tessa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'll share a quick story on my situation, and Mike, you can jump in. Like, yeah, so I'm 5 years divorced now, and my ex is remarried. They have a child together. He treats my kids great, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And we're just at a point, and again, it's taken work to get there, but we're at a point now, like, I'll go over for birthday parties. Like a couple weekends ago, like there was a birthday party and we were all there. I mean, we were eating food together, sharing stories. Like I'll shake his hand, like we'll talk, not like we're best buds by any means, but like it's cordial and it's fine. So we do that type of stuff. And then going back to the example that you talked about earlier, like all these sporting events, like they're not sitting down at the end of the field and I'm at the other. I mean, we're not like elbow to elbow, but we're in the same
family
vicinity. So yeah. But yeah, it's just gotten to the point, like if there's a function, like my oldest daughter is getting close to graduation and there's going to be events where, I want her mom to be there and her new husband, he's more than welcome to come and we can all be together and it's fine. And so, I would say birthdays, it's those shared experiences. Now, like holidays, like we separate and we do our own thing, but there are definitely at least a half a dozen times a year where it's all centered around the kids. We are doing something as a greater family group or whatever you want to say. So,
Honestly, it's the exact same. Like Mia, my daughter, she is in choir and she has these concerts that we have to go to. And if I'm there before her mom gets there, her mom's there before I get there, we save seats. So we're all like together basically and watching the thing because it's a family thing. We're watching our daughter together. Like we're not together, but we're watching our daughter together, and she's with her husband, and it's fine. And I think it's healthy, and I think it's good for I honestly think it's the best thing the kids can see is to know that I know my parents are together, but they don't hate each other. There's not these issues with them. They love us, and they're fine together. And I think it helps the kids out 1,000%. 1,000%. I just feel like the conflict between you and your ex, if it's there, it affects the kids. It just does. Whether we want to admit it or not, it does. And so I think it's important to constantly make sure those things are there, whether it's birthday parties. Like we haven't had a birthday party together in a long time. We've separated those. We used to when they were younger because we felt like it was more important for them when they were younger. Now that they're older, we kind of do our own things on our own days. But they all play sports. They all do things. And we're sitting together, like near each other, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
like elbow to elbow, we're like I'm in front, they're behind me, whatever. We're all together watching our kids do whatever it is that they're doing, and I think it's good.
Now, we're not naive to the fact, there's probably people that watch this that their situations are completely different.
Sure,
it's whatever the reason for the split was, maybe it's completely toxic and there's just no chance to do what we have done. Right. But at the same time, like hearing you talk, and again, all of the reasons why you guys aren't together, some that you shared, some that you not comfortable sharing, and that's completely fine. But at the end of the day, like you said, you have a level of respect for, your ex.
He's family to me.
Yeah. So
he's an important aspect. He will continue it, as sad or goofy as it sounds, till death do us part. That man is gonna be in my life.
Part of it.
He is my child's father. Even though she is adopted, that is her dad. That's how she looks at men. It's going to be because of the perspective that he puts for her. And I'm thankful that it's him because he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I at least did that right in life.
Yeah. And we won't get too off topic because I think we alluded to this on another podcast episode. I have tried really hard, and my kids are older, to I'm not perfect. I think that's one of the things, looking back at my childhood, I think my parents tried to shield just a lot of shit, you know, they weren't real. And like, I try and be as real with my kids as possible. And so, you know, with, especially as your daughter gets older, who knows where your life will take you, but knowing that like you have a healthy relationship with him, and, you know, you were talking off of this, how, you know, if he drops her off, you guys will chit chat together for 10 minutes and do that. Like, that stuff's important. And I think that will make a lasting influence on her versus him just, you know, dropping her off. And then as she's walking to the door, like he's backing out and leaving already. Like the fact that he can walk her in and you guys can chat, like that'll resonate with her in life.
That's the man that she is going to depend on. How she perceives a relationship as she becomes older is the example that her father sets for her.
Yep.
How she's treated, how he treats me. You know, silly things like for Mother's Day, like he knows I have a certain flower that I really like. So for Mother's Day, he got that for me. Now it's something that I get to plant and like take care of. And in a weird way, like it's emotional, of course, because he is the only person that knows that I enjoy that. But at the same time, like he's taken the effort upon himself to show his daughter that he still has respect for me. And he is showing Mother's Day and love towards me. It's a different kind of love. It's not romantic love. It's not that I want to be with you love. And that's not what I need from him. But he is a very good, important person in my life to have. So he's showing that to my daughter through me too. So I'm very thankful for that.
Like a school teacher.
Yeah. Sorry. Actually, I went to school teacher. Okay. This one I'll get to too. So when it comes to behavioral issues with your kids, sometimes my daughter has a problem with the switch, as I like to call it, the switch from one parent to the other. I've been with mom the last 2 or 3 days, and now I'm going to be with dad the next 2 or 3 days. And mom and dad are coming together. I'm going to show off. I'm going to have a little bit of an attitude. And I think she's an only child too, she doesn't have anyone else that's going through the tradition back and forth with her. So it's all centered around her. What do you do? Like when she's having a bad day, there are times where I literally am like, I want that dad voice. My God, where, please, someone just come tie a nail or a tail in her. Like, please take care of her. I can't do it. She's not listening to me. What do you do?
So our kids are a little bit older, so it honestly has gotten easier as they've gotten older. Now, easier in that sense, different in other senses where they can actually talk about how they're feeling. Like when they're younger, they don't really know what's going on. They're just them.
Sure.
I honestly think the best thing you can do is just be consistent with how you approach them when they come back and kind of like let them be what they need to be for a certain amount of time. And then you have to kind of reel them back into this house. This is like how we do it here. This isn't how, I know this is how you do it over there, but now you're back with me. And these are my rules. These are kind of how, now that when they're, you know, younger, it's still kind of hard to do, but consistency is honestly, I think the best thing you can do. Talk to them, kind of let them act out a little bit, let them talk about kind of, because when they're young, there's just nothing you can't talk to them. You can only guide them kind of how you want. And there are going to be days that you can bribe them with snacks. I mean, yeah.
Snacks,
it is hard, and it's not going to be easy. There are going to be days where you want to figure out how can I stop this, and I think the answer is you can't. You just got to ride that wave, be consistent, kind of get a routine of how when they come back, like how you can kind of bring them back to you, and then go from there. I mean, that's how when they were younger, it was like that. Like they had different rules, you know, over there, and then they would come back and not understand why they didn't have those. Like dad's got different rules. Why we got to do this? And I would always let her know, like, this is dad's house. This is how we do it here. When you're with your mom, that's fine if that's her rules. But when you're here, these are the rules here. And you know, they would get it eventually. It took a while. I'm not saying they just got it right away. Okay, Dad. Like it does take a lot of effort and a lot of putting in work for it. But it does, if you're consistent, I feel like it does work.
Do you communicate those rules sometimes to your ex?
Yes.
And I'm asking Derek that too. I mean, you both have older kids than I do. Mm-hmm. So for example, like your daughter drives, right?
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is a few years away from that. But there would be rules in my household with that. And that's just simply because I want her to be safe and I want those rules to almost be consistent.
Mhm.
Like my mom has always said nothing good happens after midnight.
Mhm.
I mean, and in a weird way, that's sunk into my soul. And I've passed that on to my daughter thinking like nothing good happens after
Which is
midnight.
like, forget kids, like that's just 100% true. Like
Right?
in life,
Thank
I just feel like,
Thank you. You're welcome.
I mean, if you were to chalk up like good times versus like bad decision times, like what were those columns? Because I feel like that is just a true, like it's not cliche. Like
you can thank my mother.
100%.
My amazing mother, and I won't broadcast her name, but she's an amazing woman, and because of that, she has put that in my heart and my head, and thinking nothing good happens after midnight.
New Year's
So,
after midnight.
shut
That's a great time.
So with kids
Okay.
and driving and certain expectations that you have for your children, I think you need to continue to communicate that with your ex. Like
1,000%. 1,000%.
I mean, we've gone through the potty training phase, my ex-husband and I have. So it's like, this is what I'm doing. This is her schedule. This is how it works for me.
Those are huge things. Those have to be
Giving you the book.
Yeah.
But you have that open line of communication with them, which is, I'm telling you, that's half the battle, because a lot of people don't. And like just all this e-learning stuff, like my son, that little shit, like he struggles with staying on task with like logging in on time. And it's like we get the notifications on our phone of like, hey, Jackson's whatever. And like, so there's been multiple times over this whole COVID thing, like I picked up the phone or vice versa. And like I've talked to my ex-wife, I'm like, all right, like we have a problem. Like because I'm not over his shoulder all the time, but it's like, all right, we got to be aligned here. Like I'm going to take stuff away,
Sure.
or there's going to be consequences. And like, I need to know if I do this, and she's saying the same thing to me, that like when he transitions to your house or vice versa, like, are we good? Like, you agree? Do I agree? Like, and it's cool that we're to that point. And
doesn't it make your life so much
100, oh my God, 100%.
Let's just talk about that. When you have that communication with your ex and you are that comfortable to where you can say, this is what's happening, this is how I'm responding, I mean, you just know it's taken care of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Communication, I mean, the communication never ends. I mean, it can never end. It can't ever end. You have so much to talk about with the kids, especially as they get older. And like you said, e-learning, all that stuff, same thing. I mean, like, one of our kids has an issue, they're not at my house, she needs to know, vice versa, she needs to let me know, and we always do. Like, we always let each other know, like, this is what's going on, this is what you're going to be coming up against when they come over there, because you're not with them, so you don't know. And so if you don't tell them, I can't even imagine how that would even work.
I go to the simple fact, so my daughter, she's biracial, and her hair is not white girl hair. Let me tell you about that hair. That is a whole nother podcast, that hair. But you can't wash it every day. And some days it needs a deep conditioning. Sometimes it needs nothing. Sometimes it needs oil. So it's like, hey, let's talk what needs to happen. And as silly as that is, it's refreshing to know that he understands what to do.
Yeah.
He might not do it my way.
Yeah.
Definitely not. He's definitely not going to do it my way. But he does it. And I am thankful for that, because he has the attitude to want to take care of what's important to me. And that's my child. That's the reason him and I are what we are.
I think it'll be good one time if we have somebody on here that doesn't have what we have, because we all seem to have good communication, because it does help. Man. And if the people are out there that don't have it, I can only give advice, like what I think, but I'm not living it. I'm sure we could find somebody who's maybe done it and has had to do it on their own, or just doesn't have that communication, because it's
dude, like, I mean, the thought of whatever caused the split, if it's something that was so traumatic or whatever that it just shook your world, and like you can't get over the fact that like the pain and frustration that person caused me is still more important in my mind than me being able to communicate them for the benefit of the kids. Like I don't know what that looks like. And so like, I can't give any guidance or feedback. Like, yeah, like you were saying, like you have a level of respect, you have a level of respect. Like I do too. Like, yeah, like there's reasons why we're not together anymore, but we both have a mutual understanding that the kids is more important. And so like all that stuff, and you got to deal with it and you got to process it, and it's fine. But like the thought of putting your hatred toward that person on a pedestal to make that more important so that you can't communicate effectively for the benefit of your kids is, I don't have good advice. You're to your point. I would love.
I felt anger towards my ex.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit that. I have felt a lot of things. My divorce is almost in a way, I had to go through a grieving process.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I say grief, it's I need to stay in bed. I'm sick. I'm depressed. I'm angry. I am confused.
Yeah.
What did I do?
All
Can I
yeah.
fix this?
All
There, you know,
it's all
it is.
there. Yeah.
You have to go through that once. But during that, you're still a parent, and
You're
during
still a
that,
parent.
you're still
It's still an adult. You have
going
to
to work
Yeah.
and paying bills and
Yeah.
having a social. So that, you know, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother layer. But I think eventually you have to forgive them, and you have to forgive yourself to be able to have that communication with that person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of, there's a difference between forgiveness and respect. There's a difference between what you consider as what you want in your life and what you have in your life. I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to work, Mike, but I have to. It pays my bills. With that being said, I respect my job. I put my efforts into it. It goes in the same manner with my ex-husband. He's in my life. He's always going to be a part of it. I'm going to accept it and respect it and communicate to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's turning off those feelings,
Right.
and just doing the process.
Yeah, it is 100%. I mean, here's my advice for people that are having issues with their exes while they're going through divorce and they're more worried about getting back at them. Guys, sack it the fuck up and take care of your kids. Women the fuck up and take care of your kids. All that other shit can go away. Like, it's about the kids. It's not about you. It's not about your feelings. It's not about how bad you feel. I was depressed. She was depressed. I'm sure he was depressed. Everybody's depressed when they get divorced. It sucks, but you still have responsibilities.
Yeah. And
Be better, not bitter.
That's 2020 saying right there. We had a whole conversation 2 weeks ago about, like, don't be bitter, be better. Because, like, you can get in your feels.
You can absolutely be bitter.
You can
I
get-
have a lot to be bitter about.
Christina, we could be. This is a whole nother. I would tell you for different reasons of what we're talking about now. Like, I'm just bitter right now. I'm just bitter, and I just need to be better. I need to be better.
Good to know.
You know, it's
Put in
mindset.
check. You gotta have a friend to put you in check.
Yeah,
So
and that's
be
you.
Bitter,
That's you.
put his ass in check and say, be better.
All right, next question. Let's keep going here.
Oh gosh, let's see. What questions do you have for me?
Next question.
So we kind of touched on the dating subject, okay? And I said, when do you feel acceptable for your kids to meet the person you're dating and introduce them in your life? And with that being said, I'll give my example.
Answer your own question. Very good.
Shut up, Mike. I asked you.
I'm sorry.
With that being said, I think I have almost been divorced almost 2 years, or at least separated 2 years. Have I gone on dates? Yeah, I've gone on dates. Do I think it's important to have an expectation? Sometimes, yes. When it comes to my daughter and it comes to inserting a person into my family, and I mean my family, like my circle, because my circle is tight, I go by the rule of 6 dates, 6 people, or 6 months. Okay?
I've never heard of that before. That's
By
interesting.
the way, it's 666. You might bump it up a
I'll
number.
tell you later off record what my social security number is, so we can talk about that too. But think about it. 6 dates, like, and when I say dates, like, yeah, you can make 6 dates happen in like 2 weekends if you really want to.
Sure.
But I think getting to know 6 people in someone's life, and 6 people, a mother, a father, a sibling, a best friend, a co-worker,
Never thought of that.
you know, so that's 6 people per se. And then 6 months when it comes to someone being in your life and being an important part of that. Yeah, it sounds great. We've been together, went on a couple of dates. Let's go to your kids' football game together.
Right.
Maybe I should have met your kid before we went to dinner and did things.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Right.
there's some thought process that needs to go into that.
It's the hardest part of divorce, I feel like, is finding out how to date with a kid, because nobody, unless you have parents that did it when you were younger, but like there is nothing to look at and be like, this is what I need to do. So you go by feel, and unfortunately sometimes it's the wrong feeling.
Don't get in your feelings.
You screw up.
Derek, don't get in your feelings.
Better, not bitter, Mike. Better, not bitter. I was always under the mindset that if you were going to introduce somebody to your kids, like they had to have staying power, like and to whatever point, like that meant, because I would always, like, you hear stories, like I have 50-50 with my kids. And so 50% of the time when I don't have my kids, like I could see that person I'm dating every single day if I wanted to. Right. And so what is the harm, and this is my opinion, of spending like that time to really start to get to know somebody before you introduce them to that other 50% of the time when you actually have your kids? Now, everybody's situation is different. Like I think with you have your kid a majority of the time. So
my daughter is with me.
That might be a different scenario. If you have a connection with somebody and you hit it off, like you're probably going to want to introduce them to your kid sooner than I would, because I have more freedom based off of my arrangement where I can spend those non-kid days really trying to get to understand if there's somebody like I want to introduce the other part of my life. And so like, I think it's different for everybody, but like, I'm never going to, and my kids are older now. And I think because I talk to them freely about just kind of my dating philosophy and all that stuff, I think it's different, but I would just be very hesitant for people coming out of divorce that are entering the dating game to I would err on the side of like wait longer versus, or like, because people, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that, are talkers, and they can scheme you, and they can make you think, that there's something that they're not. And then all of a sudden you introduce them to your kids, and then something happens, you get heartbroken, and then you're not only are you trying to deal with that, but then you're trying to explain to your kids, like, hey, you just introduced and now they're not around. Like, caution, I think, is the word. Like for me, that's for me. Like, and that's, other people may be different, but that's my philosophy.
I think that's smart. There's been a person or two that's met my daughter. And that is because, in a way, they met my expectations. They took a wall down from me, or they made me feel comfortable, or I felt like it was a good situation. Maybe those relationships have ended. Some of them have, as they should have. And because of that, I hurt for my daughter more than I hurt for me, because she's young, and it's a process of, okay, why is so-and-so here, and then so-and-so's gone.
Yep.
Or so-and-so we talk on the phone to occasionally, and now so-and-so is not here. And I think what I have learned in this situation is I need to once again set the expectation as to what my daughter deserves, as well as what I deserve. And by no means am I saying that any of the people that I have dated or have introduced to my daughter are bad guys. I've learned a little bit from it, and I guess, a bit. If I could do it again, I probably wouldn't have done it the way I did. However, I think it's been good for me and learning, and I think it's maybe in a way been good for my daughter to learn a little bit too. She's still young. But when it's all said and done, like, you need to be 100% sure about what you are doing and where you are going. It can't just be, well, this feels good, this is comfortable, we vibe on this way. Like, you need to sit down and have those hardcore conversations and drink a bottle of wine if that's what's needed to be able to talk, or two, to be able to talk about it. Like, I mean, and if you're not doing that, if you're not getting down to the brass tacks of things, like, then what's the point of being with someone?
Yeah, that's true. You can't. I've done that early on after the divorce. I did a terrible job with this. I mean, now my motto is you don't introduce anybody to your kids that you don't see a future with. because that's the point. Is you're not going to bring just some girl in that you know you're not going to be around for long, and then you just introduce them to kids, and then they're gone. The problem is, though, is you got to make sure you're thinking of the future person that you're with is actually like a person you want to be with, and not just somebody who's giving you these things that you didn't have, and all of a sudden you got them. You ignore all these other things, and you bring them into your kid's life, and they're a disaster. And you're like, holy shit, what the fuck did I do?
Did that happen, Mike?
No, not at all. So, yeah. So,
Last number here at the bottom.
Derek's thing of going slow is what everybody needs to do. I feel like, I mean, you have got to get your shit together before you introduce anybody into your life, even if you're vibing with that person, even if you think they're the one. I don't know. Like, make sure you're good. Like
diamond rings.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying, like, the kids. Like, I do think it's good to be open with the kids as they get older, not when they're young because they don't know and understand. But like,
I think they do in a way, though.
no, they do. But like,
my
a 3-year-old
daughter,
understands.
my daughter,
kind
kind of in a weird way, called me out in this situation. Like, in a particular way, she has been like, "Where's Matt?" And I'm like, you know, and it's hard for me to explain why maybe they're not there. Maybe it's because that person and I are going through a tough time. And then it kind of reminds me, it kind of centers back as to, Christina, what is your reason for doing this? Why are you in the situation you're in? What is your focus? What is your motivation?
It's such a great question. Like, yeah, just hearing you say that, like asking yourself those questions, like I think it just took me until recently to like, what are you doing here? Why? Like, what's the motivation? So like hearing you say like you're doing that, that's awesome. It's good to hear.
I mean, do I want to be alone forever? No, I'm 34 years old. I have good qualities about myself. I have love to give. I want to become a family, a blended family. I'm going to say that with excitement because I'm going to hope that's the goal for me. But ultimately, like, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I want my life to be projected, and how do I want my daughter to succeed through all of this?
So let me ask you this question. So you were with him for a long time. You're 2 years post removed, and everybody's probably got different opinions on this. I run into people all the time that they just get out of a relationship, and then it won't even be a year. Like, you know, and they're, you know, like, oh, I just want to find my person and all this stuff. And I laugh at it now because I'm like, you were with the, you were with, no, I mean, and that's the core of it, but it's just, it's humorous to me because now it's like being 5 years removed, like I've done the work. Like I think about all this stuff now, but it's like these people that are in relationships for 9, 10, 15 years, and then it hasn't even been a year removed, and they're dating, and their mindset's like, I've got to find
I'm guilty of that, absolutely. I mean, before my divorce was even finalized, I went on a date, and it was probably more of like a confidence thing.
You wanted some form of validation. There's other people out there that like found you attractive and all that stuff.
Now you're just like, next.
I don't say that. Anyways, with that being said, I think there are people that come into your life for a reason or a season, first of all. I also think that you need to take the time to understand who you are as an individual, which is hard. That's a very loud society that we live in. You are pulled a multitude of directions aside from being a parent and having a social life and maybe having a career and maybe have financial goals. Maybe you want to retire in 10 years. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And there is going to be someone that complements your lifestyle, maybe does not. You don't need someone to complete you.
No.
No. I do make the joke though. Think about Swiss cheese. Think about Swiss cheese and how Swiss cheese has holes in it. I love Swiss cheese, okay? And Swiss cheese has holes in it. You need to find another cheese that you can fill in those holes with, like maybe Gouda.
God, this is Swiss cheese. God, cheese.
Okay, cheddar. Cheddar. Mozzarella. So, like,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
And so, like, this, as stupid as it sounds goes into my business world mentality too. You hire or find people that have different qualities that when my weaknesses, for example, I am not great at starting a weed eater. I do not know how to string a weed eater. Okay. Now can I run a weed eater? Absolutely. Turn it on for me. I'll run it all day. But when it comes to putting a string on it or maybe doing something minor like that, I'm not great at it. I need someone that's better at that than me. And that is what a partnership is. And so do I need completed? No. I will get my weed eater started if that's me calling my dad, if that's me calling one of my buddies, if that's me getting on YouTube and watching how it's done, it will get done. But that does not require for me to reach out and ask someone else to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. You did 100% with that, like everything they said, minus your cheese.
Gouda. You don't like Gouda.
Bad example.
Yeah,
No Gouda for mine.
yeah. Of course. So like beef.
What else you got? At least as of right now. I mean, I feel like this has been good. Really good.
I think the thing that I struggle the most with, I think you guys have talked about, is finding what your passions are. I know you touched on that and not feeling guilty about it. Some secretly, those 48 hours that I get without my child are sometimes awesome. And then I miss her really bad. Yeah.
Isn't it weird how when you do have those moments where you are by yourself, like there's a level of like freedom and excitement that like you don't answer to anybody, you don't have any responsibilities, and you can literally do whatever you want with your time. But then within like almost within the same hour, there's like a level of guilt, like, oh, am I doing, like, what am I missing out on? Or am I being productive? Or should I be doing this? Like, it is like, I do that. And like, I mean, okay, it's good to hear like you're nodding your head like I do it too. Cause it's like,
we are, as a woman, our job is the household. Like, you're supposed to have clean sheets that you sleep in, kitchen. Did you just really say kitchen? We're going to have a conversation about the kitchen tonight. This is a whole nother podcast. Yeah, have a drink. There's a lot that goes into that. As I reminded you, I live on an acre. I cut grass.
It's a mixed
The lawnmower, the riding lawnmower I can do. The weed eater is a different subject, okay? Okay. But there's a lot that goes into my life. So as silly as it sounds, there's a certain day during the week that I get when my ex-husband has my daughter, and that is I'm going to cut grass day. Do I want to go and work out or drink wine? Absolutely. Do I get to? No. It's the day that I'm going to cut the grass if the rain has happened. So with that being said, it's kind of having the mentality of certain expectations that I have for myself, certain goals that I have for myself, and hitting them. Like, my daughter needs to have clean sheets. So like every other weekend when she's gone, I strip the beds and put in, the load of laundry. I'm making chicken and dumplings. I'm doing scones. Like, she comes home and the house is ready to go. Because I have to make breakfast every day. And I have to take care of my daughter. And those 48 hours, sometimes I forget to take care of.
Well, I think it's, honestly, this is why I honestly think it's one of the most important things to do is, all those things are important to do, obviously. But like.
My grass lines are very straight.
I believe it. But I believe, just like in anything, you have to keep yourself in everything. Like, for instance, in a relationship, if you lose yourself in the relationship and just blend into this person that you're with, it's not going to be a good relationship. You have to be you, and they have to be them, and then you guys have to be each other together. But like each other, you can't just forget everything you love to do. And I feel like it's better for everybody if you find things that you enjoy, if you find your own passions, like with your daughter. Like, when you're not there, like, yeah, I know cutting the grass is important and getting all that shit done is, but like, even if you do all that, make sure you set a period of time that's just for you, no matter what it is. I don't care if the grass is half cut, if the lines are crooked. Well, I don't care. Like, you gotta get it done.
And to go off of, like,
it's just as important.
Going back to what you said earlier, and like, not to call you out, but you're like, I have like working out or whatever, like I haven't done that in 3 months because I've been dating or whatever. So I mean, I don't know if that was tongue in cheek when you said that, but it's like, are you like, to what Mike said, like if that's something that you do on whatever frequent basis that you do it and that makes you feel good about yourself, now all of a sudden, like, why does it have to be like, I got to sacrifice that part that makes you feel good? Because now, and it may be because of just time. And again, I know your situation with your kid, you have her more often than Mike and I do, but like, that's something where like, I would just, again, not to put you on the spot and I'm sorry for it, but like why does it have to be, and I'm going to give up that so that I can date?
It's okay. So it goes back to someone complimenting you and completing you. I do not need someone to complete me. I need someone to compliment me. And maybe I have not found the right person that does that. Maybe that person's goal is different than what I have. And I, in a way, tried to, I don't want to say conform, but was giving or willing to change. Maybe I'm not set in what my passion or my goal is for myself. So
like you have passion and goals for everything but yourself. Like
that's easy.
Your
That's
passion
easy.
and goal, and you're like, oh, I gotta have
That's
this done
easy.
for my daughter. I have this done for my daughter. I know.
I told you I'm a very business minded person.
Right. So
And that's because I worked outside of the home for the majority of my life. So I know how to make things happen. With that being said, sometimes I forget to take care of myself.
I mean, I say that to you understanding because it's the same. So like, it's not like I'm like, why don't you do that? I get it. Like, it's not the easiest thing to do. And it feels selfish at first. But once you realize that, oh, when I'm actually in a better spot, everything else I'm touching is in a way better spot.
I agree 100%. I was doing much better this spring. I mean, that's kind of how Derek and I met. I mean, like I did an exercise class and I loved it. And it's simple, it's easy. It's not really pushing me outside of my comfort zone more than anything. But
you met Derek in an exercise class?
We work out.
Mm-hmm.
Is this is the yoga you're doing, or is this?
I don't do yoga.
What did you just say that with like that face for?
Does Derek
What?
do yoga? I'd like to.
He has done yoga. I have been asked to do yoga.
Yeah.
I don't do.
Yeah. You know, expand your comfort zones, Mike. We've talked about this. Am I comfortable doing yoga? No, but I do it. Okay, this isn't about me. Let's get back to what she was talking about.
More like running hills. This is a bit more meaty.
Okay.
We would run hills.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had a 200-pound pack on my back, and
yes.
I mean, all kinds of
run
shit.
hills.
Yeah. Mike.
Sorry, Terry, that didn't mean to upset you.
No, but going back to it, it's like it is. I think the thing that I've not given myself grace or time on is learning what makes me me again. I'm 34 years old. I am in a different way of living. All of my friends are married. A lot of my friends are stay-at-home moms, which I am happy for them. I'm not envious of that by any means. But I'm learning what works for Christina and the people that need to be in my life for that and what I need to do to make myself happy. And if that is jogging every other Sunday, if that is going out and having a beer by myself, if that is dating someone, whatever it might be that brings me comfort and happiness, that's okay. And my circle, my family, my people understand that about me.
Yeah.
And it's communicating. I mean, my ultimate goal, love and family kind of go, if I could give one piece of advice in your relationship with divorce, make it about being a family.
Yeah.
And there's different forms of love.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think a lot of people just get it twisted too, that like you're a failure or you failed at something or, that kind of mindset. And I fell in that trap for a long time. And then just hearing you talk about like, hey, if I want to go have a beer by myself, or if I want to go for a jog, like, and I'm doing something for me and like, that feels good right now. Like that's something like, it took me a long time to get comfortable with that. And then like the whole comparison thing, like it wasn't until recently I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Cause like I did that. Honestly, I probably still do that to a certain extent where it's like, man, I feel like I should be at this point in my life. Like I look at
Sure.
that, friend or that situation and I should be there. Financially, I should be there. Relationship wise, I should be there. And like that, there's no good route that leads to that type of thinking. It's like, you know what you've been through, how far you've come. And if you can't be your own cheerleader about like, hey,
Absolutely.
like this time last year, like, do you feel better now about yourself? Like whether it's money, whether it's job, whether it's relationship, whether it's your relationship with your kids, like whatever, like you're healthier, like whatever it is, do you feel like you're making progress? And don't compare that to what anybody else is doing. It's tough. It is because society, it's in front of you with social media. Like everybody's posting this and that. Like it is hard to like get that out of your head that like, oh, they're there and we're the same age and I should be there. Like that's fool's gold, man.
A year ago, I mean, if you asked me that same question, you would not get the same answer, the same person that you're giving today. And that's with growth. And that's with experience. I agree completely that we are in a society where the grass is greener on the other side. We're inundated with information. We are inundated with different aspects of where we should be. And I think sometimes sitting quietly and processing that, as much as everyone hates COVID, it was one of the better things for me. I moved into my house that I bought for my daughter and me, that I spent money and time on, and I could unpack and I could make it my own and I could do me.
Yeah.
And it was very healthy. And sometimes that's hard. I mean, oh my gosh, if we didn't have COVID, I'd be going to swim lessons and gymnastics and softball and or t-ball or whatever else.
Yeah.
So
reflection, self-reflection.
Absolutely. Write it down. As stupid as that sounds, talk about it. I know you guys have hit on that subject more than once. Say it out loud. Find someone that wants to listen to you. Like I said, about a year ago, I kind of had an aha moment for me. I had a girlfriend that came into my life, and I had been maybe drinking too much. And she was kind of like, she was like, girl. And it kind of gave me perspective of,
that's it.
Yeah.
Girl, that's it. That's all you
I mean,
need to hear.
there was a few other words involved.
Oh my God.
But it was kind of like it gave me insight of who she had seen me be and how I had overcome things previously.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that she didn't accept where I was, but she knew I could do better than where I was. So that
those are good people to have around.
Yeah.
You can get them or they're around. I mean, obviously, that's
find them. It's okay to change your social circle
or just
too.
listen to this podcast.
Everybody needs a Mike Sellis. Like everybody needs a Mike Sellis. Like, and I am throwing out on you hard here, but I've told him this multiple times. Like, dude, I love you. I do. Like he has been my guy. I mean, ever since we were friends back in the day, and then like it's very eerie, like how our adult lives, although some differences, have been kind of the same. And he went through some things earlier than I did, and I never even knew about it. And so like as I'm going through some of these things, like, yeah, dude, and he's like, I process all that shit on my own. And he's like well spoken, he understands it, he gets it. Dude's super motivated in what he's doing with his life, like, and he'll shoot you straight. And everybody needs Mike Sellis. Everybody needs Mike Sellis. So I appreciate it. And I'm sitting on my hand. I'm sitting on my hands right now, so I don't get animated as I say that. So,
I'm thankful you guys have each other, and honestly, like I'm thankful to be a part of this. Like you guys are good people, and I'm glad to have you in my life for sure. So, as silly as it sounds, like it's exciting, and I think you have something to be said. And going once again to being in a small town and living in the world that we live in on a daily basis. I mean, having you guys here it's good to listen to. It's helped me a little bit.
Well, That's kind of what we wanted. We wanted to help people, honestly. I mean, we both realized we struggle with things, and like, man, nobody talks about this. Like, it's like you talk to your parents about this, or you talk to your brothers about this, or even your friends.
And they're always on your side. Those people are always on your side.
Yeah, and they're always on your side, and they always make you feel like they're not crazy, you're fine.
Yeah, everyone else is crazy but you.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
That's true.
Definitely not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, Mike. So, Christina's our first guest. Like, do you think she set the bar like high, low, mid? Like,
Ooh,
I mean,
low.
she's,
Hey, hey.
you know,
She said it pretty good.
she said, all right.
Did really good. Yeah, she was great.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
She let me not talk the whole time. I felt like I didn't talk that much this time. It was actually really nice. Just sit and listen. Someone else talk.
Well, let's we'll have to make sure here, at least in the next 3 or 4 months, that we just kind of circle back, have you back, kind of see how your life has gone, since this podcast. But thanks so much for joining.
I'm excited to be here, you guys. This was fun. I think you're doing a great job. So keep it up.
Appreciate it.
You've got a lot of experience and you have a lot to say. And I think you have a good audience as well. So
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
all right, Mike. Till next time, buddy.
Bye.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.